A very good afternoon to you. Thank you for coming in. So Eskom's losses now up from about 2 billion to 21 billion rand. How does that happen under the leadership of a team who, when they were introduced, was supposed to be the great turnaround group?
Yeah, I think they have been heavily distracted by governance issues, by trying to root out the corruption, and of course the severe operational issues facing Eskom. Remember the load shedding that we went through? And these have all come to try them and are distracting to the real need, which is to address the underlying problems. We know government is throwing money at the problem. They've announced bailouts, very significant bailouts. But this doesn't deal with the underlying problem and the cause, the root cause of why Eskom finds itself where it is at the moment.
What is that root cause?
Well, if you were to speak to Eskom, they will tell you that the root cause is that the price of electricity is too low. They reckon the price of electricity should be 25% higher. And they say the root cause of all their problems is that NERSA is not giving them the price increases that they deserve in terms of the formula that NERSA is supposed to apply. Now, if you would speak to users of electricity, including commercial and industrial users, as well as domestic users, who are under great economic pressure at the moment, they will tell you exactly the opposite, that the price of electricity is too high and it's impeding the economy and it's causing them to use less Eskom's product, and the demand for Eskom's electricity is reducing. It is now lower than it was 10 years ago. So there's something of a people are not talking to each other. The bottom line is that electricity is not being sold at cost-reflective prices. Now, there's two ways of dealing with that. The one way is to put up the prices to make it more cost-reflective, but the other way is to reduce your costs in order to make it more cost-reflective. And the answer, I'm sure, lies somewhere in the middle, that they're going to have to do both in order to solve the problem. But really there is limits to what Eskom can do, both on the increasing price side, which is governed by NERSA, as well as the decreasing cost side. And
what would decreasing costs look like? Because we know one of the ideas that many SOEs have flirted with over the past decade is possibly cutting staff. We know that won't happen, given just how angry unions are at the mere mention of that idea. So which costs can they trim?
Well, the biggest cost in Eskom's income statement is what we call primary energy, coal. And you know that the Minister of Energy is approaching the coal mining industry with a view to trying to get them to reduce the price of coal. If you want my opinion, I think they've got very little chance of that. In fact, the outlook in the future is more upward pressure on the price of coal rather than downward. So that's a problem that they can't do much about. They are addressing it, but there's no short-term quick fix. The other big cost in the income statement is wages and salaries, staff remuneration, and as you said, there's limits to what can be done there. The unions are very strong. They've flexed their muscles. They've refused to accept reductions, and Eskom's only plan is really to allow natural attrition to slowly decrease the cost of staffing. In fact, this last year, Eskom's staffing costs went up by 13%. More than double the inflation rate. That gives you an idea of the problem. Again, upward pressure and not downward pressure. And the third biggest cost item is interest on debt. And that's also showing upward pressure because Eskom's debt is increasing. Its credit rating is going down, so the cost of debt is increasing. And the only way you can do something about that is to offload some of this debt onto the taxpayer, onto government.
Briefly then, Chris, I'm interested to get your expectations ahead of the medium-term budget by the Finance Minister, Tito Mboweni. He's been quite clear that his idea is to trim the fat. There's the unbundling of Eskom into three parts that we're expecting. Do you think we're likely to hear much more of a shift when he speaks? Because there has been plan after plan for Eskom, yet it remains in dire straits.
We are expecting something. The financial community is expecting something really serious to be said. Whether that will come or not remains to be seen. Moody's is on the verge of doing a credit rating review of Eskom and the country. What is said in the medium-term budget outlook statement will indicate which direction things are going in. They have to make decisions. We're waiting for the so-called government white paper on Eskom to give some serious clarity on the restructuring of Eskom. But I must stress, the restructuring of Eskom, the unbundling into 3 units, is not going to bring any short-term relief to Eskom's financial position. So we mustn't look for short-term relief. What we need to look for in short-term relief to Eskom, the only thing that I can see short-term, is to offload some of their debt to government and the taxpayer to reduce their in-house burden. But that doesn't reduce the cost.
Right.
It just passes the cost on to somebody else, the taxpayer.
Chris Sealand, energy expert, always great to have you on.
Pleasure.